Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. We got a two-part series coming up here for the next two podcasts. We're going to do some universal retirement truths. Are there? I think they are. Obviously as humans, there's certain things that are going to affect us all. Yep. Taxes, Social Security, whatever that might be, right? But how it works for the individual, well, that's the unique conversation point of that. So anyway, we're going to talk about 10 of them. We're going to break it up into five for this week on the podcast, 5 for next week, and we'll roll right through those. So if you enjoy the content, make sure you share it with others who might benefit from the message. Subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. Just type in Phil's Tax Hacks into the search box of whatever app is that you like to use, or find it all at philstaxhacks.com. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Doing good. My head's rattling today. We're having some concrete replacement done. So, so if you hear some banging in the background or, vibrations, that's what's going on. So,
we all wear these things nowadays for lots of reasons, but I can never not touch it and instantly feel like a kid watching a movie and feeling like I'm some sort of G-man or something.
Roy Rogers,
What's that? Okay. You immediately kind of have that moment for a second.
Take your shoe off.
Yeah, there you go. The shoe phone. What was that? Get Smart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're taping at a weird time for us. Usually we don't tape at this time, but we got some plans changing around. Of course, then we went to concrete issues. So
it always
is what it is.
It is what it is.
Something.
Yep.
Hey,
roll with it. So
it's Michigan and there's construction. That's a universal truth.
Yeah, and we've got cones around too. So
nice.
We're trying to match all the roads around us right now. So
well, that's my segue. That is a universal truth, right?
That's right. Michigan and construction in the summer.
That's right. That's right. They said when I first moved to Michigan years ago, it was there's 3 seasons: summer, winter, and construction.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. That is how it is, especially this year. They've decided to tear up everything.
Everything. So. Yeah. Well, let's get into some financial ones, Phil. Let's start with our first one here of 5. Everybody needs an income plan. I would think that this is absolutely an accurate universal truth. Now, there could be some folks who are truly lucky and have Social Security and a pension that's got them covered for everything. But isn't that still an income plan?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you still need to run the math out to see what that looks like. You mentioned having Social Security and a pension, and that's your income plan. Well, that may be enough today.
Sure.
The challenge with that kind of a plan, though, is that probably that pension component doesn't have a cost of living adjustment built in.
More than likely, yeah.
So looking at those two pieces today, it may fill or fit the need you have and satisfy all your monthly income needs, so to speak. But what does that look like in 5 or 10 years, just with even a reasonable amount of inflation? Because that pension component doesn't keep up with inflation.
And Social Security may or may not. We've seen them do both.
Correct. Yeah, it does have an inflation adjustment that the last couple of years have been really good. But granted, inflation's been higher. So.
And prior to that, Medicaid usually takes it anyway. So.
Right.
Kind of an offset.
And the reality is, we all have the same parts. We've got some income or some assets we've accumulated. Right. We have income, and then we're going to have taxes. Those are kind of the 3 retirement components, 3 pieces in retirement that everyone has. So that income component, you need to have a plan of what that looks like. If it's going to be from Social Security pension. If not, if I'm pulling from the assets, which the majority of you are, either getting forced to or, you need to. Have a plan for that. What does that look like?
Well, if you think about you got to have a paycheck. Right on. So if we're talking about universal truths, plain and simple, you got to have a paycheck because as long as you're around, stuff's going to cost money. So, get it sorted out. So universal truth, get it sorted out, have some income.
Know where the money's going to come from, get it set up.
Yep.
If it's pulling from the accounts, that monthly distribution, what does that look like? When are you going to get it?
Yeah.
Timing of it,
And know where you're pulling it from and when, because that's going to play, as the CPA in you knows, that's going to play into your tax scenario. And,
absolutely.
Technically, this is on the second half of my list, but death and taxes, it is what it is, right? So that's a universal truth too.
It's going to touch everyone.
Yeah. So understand your income plan, how pulling that lever here is going to do to a couple things down the line. So, and we'll get to that in part 2. So we'll come back around to it. So anyway, number 2 then, plan for long-term care issues. Okay. It's a universal thing. What does it feel now? 7 out of every 10 people, something like that, are going to experience something.
Yep. Yeah, over the age of 65, you're going to have some kind of long-term care need. I mean, it's just the reality. We're all living longer, like it or not. I mean, some people, when you start to have that discussion, it was like, there is no way, I want to be around here at age 90 or 95 or whatever.
My wife just said that.
Might be, so.
Yeah, she just said that last night. We were talking about something. My mom turns 82 next week, and she's like, I don't know if I want to be 82.
That's right. I mean, and we don't really have a choice. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean,
although, see, I don't know if you remember this line or not, but George Burns, who lived a long time, famously said, "Do you know who wants to live to be 100?" And the punchline is the guy who's 99.
There you go. Yeah. One more year.
So,
I mean, if you think of it today, you don't. I mean, usually the thought is, I don't know if I want to be around at that age in that condition,
Right.
What kind of standard of living or life do you have at that point?
Right.
I mean, oftentimes, clients will joke about it. And it's like, well, handle it like the Eskimos do, right? If I get to that point, put me on an ice patch, so to speak, and push me out into the ocean. So
go Viking funeral or something. Right?
That's right. But I mean, we're all living longer. You have to have a plan for if that happens, what does it look like?
And it costs a whole lot of money. So if you're going to be dealing with it, and there's a good chance you are, at least start the conversation for strategizing on it, because it's got to come from somewhere.
Right. So, I mean, if you're going to pay for it, can you pay for it to self-fund? I mean, if you are, then how are you going to do that? What asset specifically is it going to come from?
Yeah.
Have a plan for what that looks like. I mean, if you're running the math and you don't have enough assets to provide the long-term care because it's going to spend everything and now a surviving spouse doesn't have enough, well, then maybe you need some long-term care insurance to help fill that gap, so to speak. Even if your thought is, well, my kids will help out, that's great. Have that discussion with them ahead of time, though, to make sure everyone's on the same page and have some kind of a plan in place. Because, I mean, frankly, the person providing the care, be it a spouse or a child or whoever it is, I mean, that's a lot to lay on them.
Yeah,
it's
it really
a big
is.
Responsibility. And unfortunately, in a married couple standpoint, we've seen often where, if there's one of the spouses that needs care, the spouse providing the care, it has a dramatic effect, negative
takes a
effect
toll
on their health.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they've either injured themselves because they're trying to pick up the spouse or do something they shouldn't be doing, or just mentally and physically, it's wore them out.
Yeah.
So do you really want that to be the case? Do you want there to be assets available so that spouse has options and can hire somebody to help? So, or do you want your kids really taking care of you at that stage? That's a soap.
Well, nobody wants the burden factor. So, we don't want to be the burden factor. I feel like, this is twice now that you've mentioned, kind of fill in the blank or fill in the gap with whatever. I think we should have a little pop up on the screen with the with your little head that kind of pops up, and it's just
fill in the gap.
Fill in the gap, and it just kind of goes fill. So we'll have to let the editor see if they have some fun with that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to number 3. Consistently timing the stock market. Okay. Universal truth. Now, why is this on here? Because inevitably many of us wind up going, hey, we kind of, had something cool happen, right? We took a chance on something, whatever. And it's like, oh, I got it figured out. I got it figured out. And it's like, come on, you got lucky.
Yeah. I mean, there's no timing the market. Now, I mean, that being said, there are asset classes, investments, strategies that are better equipped to handle market volatility.
Sure. Yeah.
But to do that, you're giving up return.
Right,
so I mean,
right.
Don't think of timing the market in that fashion, because no, that's not timing the market. That's just using a different strategy, knowing of when you're going to need the money. So I mean, that's why we use that now, soon, later bucket concept, right? Our soon bucket, we're going to be spending from that in the next 10 to 11 years. We know that if the market happens in the wrong fashion for our favor, right? I mean, if we get the wrong sequence of returns, it can have a dramatic negative effect. So we want to plan for that and have a different strategy there. Not that we're trying to time the market. It's just a different strategy. It's more risk averse. Later bucket, we don't have to worry about it as much. We can have some volatility. We don't have to worry about it. So
yeah, we're not all going to be. I don't know if Phil remember a long time ago we did several podcasts around the whole GameStop hedge fund thing.
Yeah.
They're making it into a movie now
Big Shock.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Yeah. The Big Short. I mean, it's, exactly.
How people, try to take down the system or, and a bunch of people got really rich off of it. Right. But those things
a bunch of people lost their shirt.
Right. It's a tough, it's a tough place to be is trying to time the market. And I always kind of say this is the simple joke, thinking about it. Anybody who's married, that's checking out the show in one form or fashion. My spouse says, she says that I'm not right once, let alone twice. And you got to be right twice to get, timing the market. Right. So it's just not a good strategy.
And when you're getting out. So.
Yeah. I haven't been right in 19 years. So.
So. She remind you of that, right?
That's right. All right. Number 4. We make this joke all the time. If we had a little stamp on us, little expiration milk date stamp on us, your job would be super easy, right? Yeah. And planning things out. Now, 2 things about that. One, I don't know if I'd really want, like, on the one hand, I kind of want to know.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the closer it got to it, the more like, would you get anything done?
Are you sure you got that right?
Because you're just stressing it at that point, right?
Yeah.
But longevity, Phil, is, we got to take it into account. I've shared on the show by the way, this is episode 200, folks. So thanks so much.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah. So awesome. Thanks so much for checking out the podcast and all the stuff we go through. But
talking about longevity, right?
Yeah. Talking about longevity. Exactly. And I've said this many times on the show. There's a lot of information, historical information that tells me I am not going to have longevity, but I am not planning that way in case I'm wrong, because I don't want to be possibly really beat up and be in my 80s and have to go get a job because I won't be able to.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 sides of the longevity discussion. I mean, it's longevity in general is what we call the risk multiplier, because the longer you live, the more all these risks become a factor. Long-term care becomes more of a factor the longer you live, because now the care you might need becomes even more expensive potentially.
Having the income becomes a bigger factor.
Your income is lasting that much longer. I mean, there's all these different factors that play in with longevity.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you're estimating it reasonably, I always say. I mean, you don't want to overestimate. I mean, the worst thing to me in planning, or not the worst, but almost as bad as running out of money, is planning to live too long and you don't live that long, and then you didn't really enjoy retirement.
Right. I mean, what's a safe number nowadays? 92, 100?
Yeah, on average, what we typically use would be 85 for men and 90 for females.
Okay.
Now,
right.
And that's
but you put a buffer on though, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then we give a 5-year buffer.
Yeah.
So the reality is, if you want to talk about running out, would be, 90 and 95. And beyond that, I mean, that's a suggestion to a client. Ultimately look at their lifestyle, their family history. Because genes, family history plays in fashion generally in two ways. Number one is, I mean, if there is some condition that unfortunately maybe you've inherited in your genes,
right?
You have to not ignore that, So yeah, like in your case, I mean, it's, but to your point, you're not planning to say, well, this is it,
Right.
It could potentially, you could be the person that, the doctors have now figured it out. And you have a longer life expectancy than your family has.
And I'm sitting around going, oh man, I don't have any money, right? So you don't want that, right?
Yeah, you don't want to, say I'm going to enjoy it while I'm here and run out of money.
Well,
and
right,
it's not gone yet.
It's the what is it, the YOLO thing, right? I'm just going to live for today, right? And that's fine to a degree, but just be smart. Not to mention that, but also just the person that you leave behind. Like, so, if you go blowing through it because you're convinced that you're going to die at 72.
Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it while I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you maybe messed up your spouse, right? Or maybe you're planning for leaving something to your kids or whatever. So,
right. Well, I was going to say, so that's the other side of longevity to understand is what is that effect on the overall plan? Be reasonable with it.
Yeah.
Make an estimate, but then we also back it up now and say, okay, we plan for the best, prepare for the worst. What happens if we're wrong and either spouse passes early? Start stress testing the plan to see if that doesn't happen, what happens if either of you passes today, 5, 10, 15 years into retirement, to know what that might look like. Because obviously none of us know, right?
Yeah.
And it's the favorite discussion to have. No one wants to talk about when do you think you're going to die? But I mean, that is the number that, I mean, if you tell me that number, I've got the perfect plan. I can tell you exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But
so
we don't know.
No.
So,
and to your point, we don't want to know.
We don't want to know. Yep.
All right. Well, let's do the last one for this week, Phil. Number 5. Some people are listening going to go, well, I can get 5% at the bank right now. So number 5 is money sitting in cash is not keeping up with inflation. Right. Get it out of your brain. And don't come at me with, well, there's 5% at the bank and inflation is now lower.
Yeah, exactly. So you might catch these little windows of opportunity where it flips the other direction.
But is it really actually lower, Phil? Like they can claim it's 3.5 or 4, whatever they're saying it is for when the last numbers came out. It's not. Like, I mean, that's for certain things it might be. Right. But I think for going to the grocery store, and that's where it hits a lot of us, it is still not. So 5%, and you and I have talked about this many times, whatever the number is, it does not keep up with inflation historically over time, period. It's a safe bet. It's a safe place, right? It has a purpose, but not for growth.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand the purpose of cash. And I mean, again, in our now, soon, and later buckets, it's that now money, right? It's the money in the bank, the emergency fund. That's a perfect place for it because you need it when you need it now. You don't have time to wait. You don't have to worry about what's going on in the market. We had a tornado come through and the roof's gone. I need to replace it. And I'm trying to deal with the insurance company, but I need to get the roof done now. Well, that's where you can take it from.
And Phil, a 5%, like a 5% investment at the bank right now for a CD. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to take a look at all. But don't lock it up for long periods of time because that stuff's going to change, right? So just be smart and realize that just your normal money market or just your normal savings account is never going to keep up with them, or your checking.
No, it's not the purpose of it. I mean, it is really meant to be that safe, secure, liquid money that's always available. And we talk about it all the time with clients. It's going to be money that over time historically is going to lose value because of inflation. Mm-hmm. And if you look at history, there is never a time in history, longer periods, more than a month or two, that anything in the bank is, the rate you're going to get there is going to exceed what inflation is. It's just, that's not what it's designed for.
And that's a universal
Understand its position. Yeah. Know where it's at. I mean, it's funny. We always lose sight of where we've been, right?
Oh, big time.
Think back 18 months. What were you getting at the bank then? 0.00
how many years
nothing.
Prior to
I mean,
that?
it was, forever you were getting nothing at the bank. I mean, they were charging you probably more in fees maybe than what you were getting. So, it's not till all of a sudden this inflation and then higher interest rates and the Fed's trying to tamper that we're at where we're at.
Yeah, so you got to kind of temper that stuff, right? And again, just if you've got the right mindset about universal truths, then you can kind of make strategies and plans to, there are going to be those times like now when maybe, jumping on a 5% CD for 12 months does make sense. But again, you've got to accept the universal truth. You can't go, ooh, they're offering a 5. Matter of fact, I think I just saw on my bank, it was like 5% for, I think it was a 12-month CD. Mm-hmm. And I think the minimum was like $5,000 or something like that. Right. And then it was like the mega, and it was like the mega CD.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think it was 36 months and it was actually, I don't know, like 0.1%, 0.2% less.
Yeah.
And they wanted you to put in like 25 grand or more. And I'm thinking, why would you tie up 25 grand for 3 years?
For 3 years at a lower rate.
Yeah, at a lower rate, right? But the advertising looked cool,
Well, but I mean, that right there tells you exactly what's going on if you think that through, because that tells me the bank isn't willing to commit at that interest rate for a long period
because they think it's going down.
It's going down.
Yeah.
And rates do. I mean, they go up, they go down. Usually these high interest rates like this are for shorter periods of time as they're trying to combat inflation.
Yep, exactly.
So I mean, grabbing the 5% for some of that now money today, perfect.
12
don't
months?
tie it up for 36 months, but 12 months, 6 months. I mean, a lot of just even plain money market funds will outdo what a CD is doing.
Yeah, true.
Maybe even taking some of the soon money, a little bit of it, and putting it in there to get some of that higher rate for a little, what you might need in the next 12 months. But beyond that, again, understand the purpose.
Okay.
So,
all right. Understand the universal truths. They are going to affect us all because, well, we all live in this country. We're all, we're alive, right? And so there's things like taxes and so on and so forth that are just going to affect us as a universalism. But the individual, how you set it up, again, how you pull this lever that affects the next 3 is going to be different from person to person to person. So get yourself on the calendar, have a conversation with a financial professional near you, around you, whatever the case is, but find somebody to work with. And if you're not working with somebody or you want to talk to Phil, he's certainly here to help. Just because he's in Michigan doesn't mean that you have to be. So reach out to him and give him a jingle. 248-888-7530, numbers on the screen, 248-888-7530, or visit him online if you're checking this out in audio form at philstaxhacks.com. That's philstaxhacks.com. And we'll see you next time. Phil, thanks for hanging out, buddy. Always appreciate you.
Take care.
We'll catch you later on, right here on the program. This has been Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Phil?
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.